All right, Theresa, I get asked the first question.
Perfect.
And that first question is, tell us about yourself and why you're running for the Board of Education.
Okay, good deal. Well, you know my name. I have 3 children, and I have been married for 28 years, so just a little bit about me and about them. Our oldest is a recent college graduate, and he is a Golden High School and Bell Middle alum, just like my husband. And we also have daughters who just started middle school here in Jeffco. So I've been in the school system for a while. I grew up on a vegetable farm just outside of Denver. And my 12 siblings, I have to always remember how many we have, 12 siblings and I, we bunched radishes every day from Memorial Day to Labor Day. And I, as a result, learned to love school. I couldn't wait for the summer to be over because I wanted to get back to school. I'm a huge advocate of public education, and really that is what allowed me to trade those radish fields for an accounting degree. I became a CPA, and for the last 35 years, I have spent my career analyzing and auditing financial statements. I worked in public accounting, and I have overseen the operational aspects of a $2 billion financial services firm. But I have also had the opportunity to serve on boards. I've served on several nonprofit boards, and I am serving now on Colorado State University's Accounting and Advisory Board, which has really been a lot of fun. But as I said before, I have 3 kids. They are a decade apart. So I bring a really unique perspective to the board. I have seen how great Jeffco schools were. We lived it. But we are now in a place where things are a lot different. And I have seen that difference between the education that my son received and the education that our girls are receiving. I don't have to explain that more to you. You all are all very in tune with that. This is a very large school district, 37th largest in the nation. $1.4 billion annually being invested. I know we can get Jeffco back to the place it used to be. My father-in-law, Hal Shelton, he served on Jeffco's board back in the 60s.
Question 2, share your understanding of the issues, and you started down this path, share the understanding of the issues surrounding the Jeffco Public Schools budget.
Jean and everyone, I see 3. I see, number 1, we have a real achievement issue going on. We have an academic achievement issue going on. And the real question is, how does that get fixed? Is it a result of allocation between classroom spending and between administration spending? Is it a question of the student-based budgeting model? Is that working right? Are we giving our schools that may need more interventions, more resources, the supports they need? Or are we locked into the SBB model and we're not able to quite think out of the box and figure out how to help those schools that are struggling? I lived through that. I'm in one of those schools. My kids were in one of those schools where it's not big enough to be Title and get extra resources, but there are 400 children in that school. And when you have an at-risk population of 40% in a school of 400 kids, it's very, very difficult to do what you need to do and get it all done. So I think that's number 1. Do we have that balance, and should we be thinking differently about how we use SBB? The second one is we are in a declining enrollment, and we have to understand what that means, and we have to be willing to make some hard decisions about where those dollars are going to go. Declining enrollment also means that we might be having to close schools. And so what are our processes for closing schools? That is something I see that is super important, because if we're going to close a school to save money, which by the way, it's kind of ironic that we're sitting in this building. I said I went to Shelton. Shelton accepted a lot of the children that came from Pleasant View. We had some very difficult times. So how we close schools and how we actually look at the money we're going to save is going to be super duper important. And then last but not least, the federal ESSER funds. There's $146 million that came in, and we really need to be transparent with our community how we're using those and how they're actually helping those kids that really need some additional supports. Thanks, Mindy.
So number 3, how will you balance the competing interests of employee compensation versus student and school needs?
Everyone needs to make a living wage, whether you work in an accounting firm, whether you work on a farm, whether it's all of you and all of your teams and all of our support staff. But before we start investing a lot more money and to try to solve these needs, we really have to understand kind of where we've been and then where we're going. And especially where we're going if we are going to be facing more limited resources and if we're going to have more declining, further declining enrollment. There was a bill that we passed And one of the things it was supposed to do was help address our compensation issues and to keep our district more competitive. I don't hear much conversation about that. I'm not sure why that's not working. I really want to dig into that and understand what happened there. Did everybody else just raise significantly more? I know in some cases that's true, but I think it's so super important that we look at all levels of of our teams, because I know there are issues right now with food service and transportation and with our paras. We have real issues there, and it's a tight labor market. Everyone's going to have to react to a tight labor market, and the more experience that you can bring to the board table in dealing with situations like that, I think the better chance we're going to have to be able to solve some of those problems. I also just want to make a point. There's a survey that you all participate in every year, and as the SAC chairman in my school, we would kind of gloss over the fact that 55% of our teachers and educators that answered that survey were not satisfied with the amount of time they had to do their job. So is there something else going on here that we need to be looking at? I think that's really, really important. That's 3 years in a row now. And we have to react and do something to try to figure out what's happening.
Question 4 for you this morning. Describe the impact of the pandemic on Jeffco Public Schools and what you will do to ensure student learning, safety, and health.
So everybody, you guys are meeting today. I know we're all going to talk about the safety of our staff and our students when it comes to this. It's so very important. I think how we get there is where we're all going to differ a little bit. I'm a mother of 6th graders, and what I know is that it is so important for them to have the option of being in person, in school, 100% of the time. Unexpected quarantines, though. I haven't had one yet, but we've had several notifications, and we're all so confused about what it means. You may have been exposed, you may not. Are we going to have to quarantine? Are we not? If we have to quarantine, what happens next? Do we have a remote learning option like we had last year? I don't think it's going to work that way, but it's a little bit confusing. So this is the dilemma I think we all are in right now. We have a lot of strategies that are being mandated and things that we're doing in Jeffco, but the incremental protections from all of these different strategies is just not clear. I don't know that we have seen the evidence that says this strategy is providing this strategy is providing this, or this strategy is providing this. I'm a data person, I'm an evidence person, and I would like to understand that more, because without data, without the ability to measure whether or not these strategies are successful, we'll just keep doing them all forever. And I think that's where we're going to have some real difficult times. So if you can get yourself to a place where you can set some goals and some metrics, and you can look at what you are trying to prevent or protect from, and that you are actually accomplishing something that is not just a possibility that you're mitigating, but real problems, I think if we can get there, what I would like to do is bring some discussions, some clarity, and some reasonable parameters to this process.
What are the major issues confronting our district regarding student achievement, and what will you do to improve them?
I talked a little bit in the opening about our student-based budgeting model. And I do think that with academic achievement where it is, with our 3rd graders and our 4th graders not meeting those standards in language arts and in writing, where that stands right now, and the fact that COVID has made this all worse, we know we're going to have to do something with academic achievement. I do like what I'm hearing from our superintendent, that we need to be digging down further and understanding this difference between, her words, system coherence and school accountability. I love that. That's music to my ears. The first time I heard it, I thought, wow, she must have seen what I've been trying to figure out here for the last long time. So it is really going to take bold leadership to look at this budget from top to bottom. I participated a lot in the budget process this year as a community member, and I was surprised that we were, at the board level, they were focused on incrementally. So this is what we did last year, and incrementally, this is what we're going to do this year. And that's not the way especially in difficult times, that's not the way you approach a budget process. You have to go from top to bottom and really dig into where that entire $1.4 billion is going. And then how do we direct those resources on targeted ways to help those schools that have those students that need our assistance the most. Our job in public education is prepare our children, right, to leave high school ready for a career, for college, for the military, to be active members in our community and contributors.
As a member of the school board, why should you be chosen to lead Jeffco Public Schools? And what will you do to work collaboratively with all constituents for the purpose of improving the learning experience for all students?
Thanks, Stacy. Again, you're going to hear from 7 of us today, and I know what you'll hear from all of us is we all want to do something. We all want to help all of you and help our communities to improve our schools. But I have 35 years of operational and financial experience, so I want that too, but I believe I actually bring skills to the board table to help make that change happen. There are operational issues, that we have to confront. Transportation, food, I spoke about that already. There are financial issues. I talked about the 3 primary areas in the budget. Again, these are things that I have experience addressing and working with teams on. There are governance issues. Governing is a lot different than doing. Our superintendent is the doer. Her team are the doers. You guys are the doers. But your governors have to do a very good job of not only showing patience, right? Because they can't rush and get everything done. They have to show patience. They have to be willing to listen. They have to show leadership. They have to be a valued resource. They have to be collaborative. They have to be transparent. The buck kind of stops there. And governing is something I have a lot of experience with. And I mentioned to you how I've worked with a lot of nonprofit boards. I've worked with CSU's Accounting and Advisory Board. We're not out there to try to change what CSU is doing in their accounting program, but we have provided a lot of great guidance to that chairperson, actually, to move that program forward and to figure out how best to take all those students in a land-grant university and get them out into the world into really good paying jobs. So I absolutely think that I can do this job, and I also believe that it's important that this isn't a solo effort. It must be collaborative, and I look forward to working with our existing board members.